2024 is pretty much over. We've got a couple days left. So today I wanted to do something very different than what I've done on this channel before. I wanted to talk about some of my purchases from this year for my own private collection. I've had not only a lot of things I've purchased, but also sold, and today I wanted to make a top 5 best purchases of 2024 video, and I'm going to have a follow-up of my top 5 worst purchases for 2024. These could be things I just regret buying, or I didn't sell well for the bad ones, and it's going to be things that maybe I made a great profit on by flipping it quickly, or maybe something I'm just really happy I got in my collection. All of these are going to fall into one of 3 categories. Something I either bought to flip quickly and I did well or bad on, something that I bought for the long haul because I really believe in the item as a long-term investment, or something I bought for my collection that I just really like or dislike. I'm not just making this video to brag about the stuff I've gotten, and especially the ones that I've not done well on, because who wants to brag about when they screw up?
Oh, I'm a failure because I haven't got a brain.
But I'm making this video to help you see what I've done in the past for my collection, and then I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do for the future to change the way I collect so that I'll have better value in my collection and I can better focus it on things that I really believe in for the long haul. And one more note before we get started, I collect some pretty weird and obscure stuff. I really have gotten away from more common coins. I just have a wide variety of interests, and some more obscure stuff has caught my eye. But hopefully you actually are exposed to some things you might not even know exist in the realm of numismatics, so that maybe it might catch your eye as well, or at least you'll just be more well informed of what's actually out there. And without further ado, let's go to number 5 on the best things I purchased this year, in my opinion, which is actually going to be the so-called dollars I picked up this year. Yeah, it's actually more than one. I know it's not a coin. Some of these will be categorical, but it is something I really like. There's a lot of neat history to so-called dollars. So what the heck is a so-called dollar? It got that name because generally they were metals that were about the size of a dollar at the time, but they weren't US coins. They were usually made by the mint or by private individuals or die makers, and they were for different expositions usually originally, like the Pan-Pacific Exposition, the Columbian Exposition, the Centennial Exposition, that kind of stuff. So World's Fair kind of stuff. But so-called dollars don't just have to be about expositions. They can cover a much wider spectrum than that. But one of the topics of so-called dollars that's outside of that exposition range are Bryan dollars. William Jennings Bryan ran for president several times in the late 1800s and early 1900s at a time when silver had gotten so cattywampus in value as opposed to a $1 coin that $1 worth of silver was much more than $1 US dollar, like a Morgan dollar was. So you'd have to have a much larger piece of silver to actually have $1 worth of silver. So his campaign was based off the free mintage of silver coins, and that being the case, he was trying to get that straightened out. You can read more about that elsewhere. I'm not getting into the history of Bryan dollars here. I've gotten one of these in my collection this year, a Bryan dollar. It's one made by the Gorham Silver Company. Yes, the famous silver maker Gorham was making political items for William Jennings Bryan. The cartwheel design on here is meant to represent the size of a Morgan dollar, and that larger overall piece of silver is what $1 worth of silver was at that particular time. So you can see that it was several Morgan dollars that would make up $1 worth of silver, and they well represent it in this really neat piece. Another neat piece I picked up, and I did pay a strong premium on this one because I bought it from Jeff Shevlin of SoCalledDollar.com, is this neat free Czechoslovakia medal from the 1930s made by the Medallic Art Company. And it has the image of a man being bound between 2 pillars with German symbols from World War II on it. You gotta dance around the stupid YouTube guidelines here. They're blurred out, sorry. With a woman and child holding on to him. It's a really sad image on this coin, but it really represents the gravity of the situation of the Nazi occupation of Europe. And the last so-called dollar I picked up this year was actually one I just put in a short, which is my Centennial Exposition that graded AU 55. Now for the record, none of these are astronomically expensive. The Bryan dollar is probably a $300 so-called dollar. The Czech one I paid a little over $200 for, and this one's only worth about $125 to $150 probably. It's not in a grade that's really strongly desired among collectors, but it still has enough detail and really is beautiful, so I didn't mind picking it up for my collection. We didn't mint coins for the centennial of our country. We did make some of these so-called dollars that the mint actually made, but most of the so-called dollars from the Centennial Exposition were done by private companies and individuals to be sold as kind of like souvenirs of the exposition. Now, these are ones I picked up for my own private collection, and I really like them, so it's not something I'm super worried about what I paid for them. I either really am interested in the history behind them, or I just find them really beautiful, and kind of a mixture of the two. Coming in at number 4 is one I picked up for a quick flip and kind of a gamble because I didn't know much about it when I actually purchased it, but I actually kind of hit a home run on this one. It's a Hard Times token that actually does some money and is kind of rare, which is not common for Hard Times tokens if you're familiar with those. But this one is a half-cent worth of copper token, HT73, and it came in at an MS63 grade. I saw this token initially in another dealer's half-cent box, actually. It wasn't even in a Hard Times token box. And it didn't have a price label on it, and I didn't know much about it. I didn't really want to sit there and just do the research right there on the token, so I just asked the dealer, what do you want for this? And if it sounded good, I'd pick it up. And when he told me it was $70, I thought for a second, well, I've never seen this one before, and it is in really nice condition, so why not? I'll take the gamble. And I'm really glad I did, because this token in this grade is probably worth somewhere between $400 and $450 now that I've got it in a PCGS slab. Number 3 on the list is one that I really feel kind of conflicted about every time I look at the coin and I think about it, but it's one that I'm very happy I have in my collection and I don't see really selling unless somebody offers me a significant amount more than I paid for it. I've been looking for a 1943 Lodes Ghetto coin for over a year now, and I finally found a dealer out of the country that had it for a price that I felt was pretty fair. So I took the opportunity, I paid the shipping, and I still got it significantly cheaper than I could have gotten it for in the US. But let's talk a little bit about what this coin is and why I wanted it in my collection. During World War II, in the occupation of Poland by the Germans, the city of Lodz, which is southwest of Warsaw, had a significant Jewish population. Because of this, a ghetto was established there, and the Jews from that area, as well as the surrounding area, were put into that ghetto. Of the several 100,000 people who were put into that ghetto during the war, very few survived. In fact, only about 10,000 Jews from the Lodz area actually survived the war in various places. Most of those people would end up in the Auschwitz concentration camp, as well as several others, and most of them would not survive. In the ghetto, there's a major problem of a lack of coinage. Because the people were isolated from the surrounding community, they aren't trading and receiving normal German coinage, and the Germans didn't want to just give them silver Reichsmarks and paper Reichsmarks, which were, going to the general population. It was part of their mistreatment of the Jews in that ghetto. But the Germans did allow the people in Lodz Ghetto to mint their own coins, and they minted those in copper, aluminum, and an aluminum magnesium alloy. And they're pretty scarce. They generally are not going to be found in anything higher than a low mint state, although most of them can be found in those low mint states rather accessibly. But 64 is pretty much like the highest you'll see one of those coins. I was able to pick up an MS63 example of the 1943 10-mark coin for a reasonable price. I want to say I paid a little bit less than $500 for it, which on the US market, the same coin probably would have been closer to about $7 based on comparable sales at the time. And for that particular issue, although MS63 was the top grade for a very long time, now there is one MS64. This isn't the only ghetto or concentration camp that had coinage and banknotes issued. There are ones from Auschwitz, Buchenwald, a lot of different locations. It's part of a bigger field of Holocaust money. It's not a coin I pull out to just say, oh, I've got this, it's cool, and then put it back. It's one every time I get it out, I instantly start to think about where it came from. The people who held it, the people who were suffering at the time because of the horrible conditions they were forced into under the Germans, when a very hateful ideology led to their imprisonment, mistreatment, and murder. And I'm happy to have this coin as not only a historical artifact, and in a numismatic piece that is pretty scarce. And I'm happy to have it as a connection to realizing the reality of that history. Something that's a physical reminder that it's not just a story in a history book. This is something that actually happened, and something we can never allow to happen again. Number 2 on the list is another one of those quick flips where I feel like I hit a home run on this particular coin. It's one that I didn't really want to sell because it was pretty, but at the same time I didn't want to keep it in my collection, so I had to buy it to sell it. It's a really common date Philippines coin, 1944S, 1 centavo, but it just happened to be the double die. I found this one on eBay already graded in a 65 red brown. Now, this is one of those tricks of the trade that I probably shouldn't tell y'all because now I'm going to have more competition, but I sometimes just scour eBay for stuff that's already graded where I can find a variety that somebody else hasn't spotted. This is one of those coins where I was able to do that. It's absolutely gorgeous with beautiful toning and a 65 red brown, which is not a really uncommon grade. I overpaid for the coin itself, but with the variety, it's worth so much more than just the value that I paid. Remember that even an overpriced coin can sometimes be an underpriced variety, so sometimes what might look like a bad deal at first, upon further inspection, might actually be something worth you picking up. So, although I really probably, as I said, shouldn't be just telling y'all my secrets on here of how I sometimes make some money on some coins on the side, this is something I do. I'll kind of keep an eye out for stuff. And Philippines varieties are very well sought after for Philippines coin collectors. And the varieties can be a little obscure, hard to spot, and they sometimes don't get up into really decent grades. So if you can spot a variety for a Philippines issue coin that is one of the Allen varieties from his book, U.S. Philippines Coins by Lyman Allen, if you can spot one of those varieties and you can get it already in a grade that you know the value will be worth the money, then sometimes you can just send it back off to PCGS or NGC, have them slap that variety attribution on it for that fee, and a reholder fee as well, and you'll have the attributed variety in that grade that you bought ready to go for sale. And this coin did not disappoint me at all. I ended up buying this, as I said, for $100, which is probably like $30 more than I should have, even with that gorgeous toning on it. But I sold this coin within 24 hours for $375. And all I had to do was send it off with a submission I already had for PCGS to have them reholder it with that Allen attributed variety on it. Before we get to my all-time favorite buy of this year, I want to have a moment for some honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. They're really nice and worthy of being on the list, but I couldn't make a top 5 and then put 10 coins there. So let's take a moment of silence for the ones that just didn't quite make the list. They almost made it. The number 1 pickup of 2024 that won't be leaving my collection anytime soon unless somebody's really willing to pay me a significant premium over what I paid for it. Everything has a number. It's going to be my 1913 5-mark proof Württemberg issue that I got in an NGC fatty holder with some absolutely insane toning to it. I saw this coin in a dealer's case at Summer Fun, and I actually moved my all-time worst purchase of 2024, which will be in the next video, into this coin. So I sold those items that were in that particular category, and I moved that money plus a little bit more into this coin. I picked this coin up for $1,000, which sounds like a lot, but that toning, the fatty holder, the just spectacular toning, I can't get over that. I said it again and again and again, and I'll keep saying it, the toning. It's a beautiful coin. It really brings the whole coin together. 66 is the top grade for that coin, but there is an example in Deep Cameo and one in Cameo, so this technically isn't a top pop coin. But it's up there in the highest grade that you can get on this particular issue, and I challenge anybody to show me one of those other top-graded 66s that's as pretty as this one. As I said, I think this is my number 1 pickup because I don't feel like I got a bad deal on this coin, but it's one that I absolutely love, and I don't see myself selling it. I think the market on it might go a little bit higher than just that $1,000 mark, but I could be wrong. Being as though it's not a 66 DCAM, which would be the number one coin for this particular issue, I really don't know. But the toning makes it spectacular, and I'm not going to sell it for $1,000, so somebody's going to have to pry it out of my hands for some more money. But now that we looked at the things I picked up in 2024 that I consider to be my best 5 purchases, let's look at some stuff that I'm planning to do for 2025 and beyond that's completely different than what I did this year. If you take into account those honorable mentions, I have 3 really wildly different categories of things I picked up for my own collection. I have things I got from my typeset that are US coins, they're raw, and they might have a little problem to them. And then I have stuff that is German, but it's not even the same category of German type stuff. And then on top of that, I have these so-called dollars that are also completely different. So I really, this year, want to start focusing in my collection to one particular thing. I want to start to find what I really like to collect, and I want to collect that particular type of stuff. I haven't found what that is yet for me, and I'm really not sure what it's going to be. I have a feeling it's going to fall into German kind of stuff because that seems to be the stuff I gravitate towards when I'm looking at stuff on the internet and when I'm researching coins. Also, the only thing I picked up on this list that I mentioned for a long-term investment was that Isabella quarter, which didn't even make my top 5 because it is something I really like, but it's not something I feel like I really hit a home run on. It's more of a long-term investment, and it's something that I like looking at occasionally, and I like having, but it's not something that I just have to keep in my collection. So I've put a lot of focus on things that I like to collect, and not so much into things that are a long-term purchase because I really believe in the item for the long haul. That's one of the biggest things I want to change this year, is moving away from really focusing on things that I just like and moving into things that really have long-term collector potential to really bring a profit or really hold their value over time. Whereas some of these more unique items, obscure things, it really takes the right collector seeing that particular item, and those collectors probably are fewer and farther between than US coin collectors. So I'm probably this year going to be moving some things that I purchased as something I liked that I thought I wanted to keep long term, but it's more stuff I just really like having. I'm probably going to take some of that stuff and really condense it down to a category to keep, and the rest of it I'm going to start moving out, and I'm going to start moving that money into longer term investments of coins. I can't take credit for this question. My boss brought it up first, and it really resonated with me, and I kept thinking about it over and over again. What are the things that people bring into my shop where I see it and I know I can pay super strong on that item because I know it's gonna sell? And those are the kinds of things I probably should put my money into, because those are the things I know I could move to another coin dealer, I could move on the market, and be pretty rest assured that I'm going to get the money out of it I want. Whereas a lot of the things on this list don't meet that criteria. I want to put some of that into a longer term investment in US coins that are interesting and also have rarity and have a grade that's actually going to be desirable to collectors over time. That doesn't mean newly issued US coins. It's definitely going to be stuff that's older, longer term price history, established rarity, where you can see a historical trend of the coin moving up over time. Or at least some collector appeal, or even dealer appeal, where anybody who looks at it's going to say, that's cool, I would love to have that. So I'm looking at right now maybe putting some money into a US pattern coin, or maybe putting some money into a higher rarity piece from the 1800s. I really don't even know what it's going to be yet. Maybe like a mint state trade dollar, a proof Morgan. I really have no clue at this point. But what I'm going to do is keep my eye out for something that just screams at me and says, this is the coin, it's at a price I like, and that's one that I know I can eventually sell and not have a problem getting my number out of it the day I want to get it. And I'm also going to scale back on what I'm picking up for my interest collection. Yeah, I might like something a lot, but that doesn't mean I need to just dump a lot into it. Focusing in on a particular topic and trying to buy quality at an affordable price, and cutting back how frequently I make those types of purchases. If I end up going with German coins as what I like to collect for my own interest, I'll probably make it to where I only pick up a couple of those a year and make sure that they're quality pieces that I really want for my collection. So I'll probably hold off on really making any big decisions on that until I really focus in. But I want to finally find that spot, that one thing I really love that's going to be my long-term interest in collecting, that if it does do well over time, which I hope it does, I'm going to try and buy it right so that I make money over time with it, of course. But if it does well over time, good. But if it ends up being that I take a little hit on it or it kind of washes out, it is what it is, and I won't be disappointed with it because I just enjoy having it and being able to show people and being able to take it out and look at it. Because honestly, that German proof, I find myself pulling that out of the box at least once a month just to look at it because it's just so pretty and I'm really happy to have it. As I said, I don't bring all this up because I just want to talk about the stuff I got this year. I'm making these lists because I made some good decisions and I made some bad decisions with my collecting this year. And I want to help you think about what you have in your collection, what you want to do with it in the short term, the long term, what you really love having, and what maybe you just kind of picked up on a whim and don't really care about. And making a plan for the long haul so that you have value in your collection that you can cash in on one day, as well as things in your collection that you really enjoy having there. Now, any area of numismatics can be something that really is a good investment as long as the market holds up and as long as it's something where you buy it right and you buy quality in it. So I wouldn't want to discourage you from investing in maybe really nice German proofs if that's your thing, but just recognize that those might be a little bit tougher to sell quickly and might be a more specialized market in the US than something like US coins, which any coin dealer, if it's quality and high grade and scarce and stuff like that, any dealer could easily buy that and move it to somebody pretty darn quickly because it's a desirable coin. But nonetheless, I still think you should collect what you like. Find something you really love to collect and focus in on that. I mean, if you don't like what you collect at all, then obviously, what's the point in collecting it? And that's why I'm not going just for your typical key date common US coins when I pick things up. I'm going to focus in for those really long-term investments on quality pieces that aren't as common to see. If this video helped you out in thinking about your collection for the future and for the present, maybe regrets you have in things you've picked up, or maybe things you're really happy you got, or maybe it helped expose you to something you never even knew was out there, I'd greatly appreciate a like. Also, if you want more numismatic content like this, make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications button below so you'll be notified when I have new content coming out. Thank you all very much and have a happy new year.